InReach Mini versus InReach Mini 2. Can you tell the difference? Welcome back, I'm Dave from Chase the Summit, and in this video we're going to be taking a close look at the brand new Garmin InReach Mini 2, which is a very interesting device that could also save your life. The Garmin InReach Mini 2 is brand new, however, the Garmin InReach Mini has been around for a while now, and if you put these two side by side, you'd be hard pressed to tell them apart. So what did they change between these two devices? That's what we're going to talk about in this video today. For those of you who are not familiar with what a Garmin InReach is, it's a personal satellite communication device that can be used to communicate with friends and family via text message or email, and it can do this while being off the grid without any cell phone coverage. Cell phones are amazing devices for emergency situations, but they do have one downfall, and it's that they rely on a grid of antennas to have their cell phone signal. And without those antennas, when you're off the grid, you're out on the ocean, on the peak of a mountain, in the backcountry somewhere, your cell phone is useless, and that's where the InReach Mini comes in. So the Garmin InReach Mini 2 relies on something called the Iridium satellite network. It's a series of satellites up in the sky. It communicates directly with those satellites, and it cuts out the middleman that would be that cell phone tower. That's what makes these devices so special. I would argue that the Garmin InReach or devices like this, a PLB from any brand, is a great thing to have if you're a solo hiker, trail runner, climber, someone who likes to go into the backcountry and you just want to give your friends and family some peace of mind. Plus, these things have a ton of features that make them useful navigation tools as well. Before we dive into all this InReach goodness, if you find this video entertaining or educational or fun or anything, make sure you give me a thumbs up down below and subscribe to the channel because that really helps me out. And if you're interested in picking up an InReach Mini or an InReach Mini 2, check out the links in the description down below because they do help support my channel. Okay, let's move on. All right, so what we're looking at here is the InReach Mini 2 on the right here, which is the orange one, and the InReach Mini, the original version, on the left here. And as you can see, they're nearly identical. The form factor between the InReach Mini 2 and the 1 hasn't really changed. They're both 4 ounces, which is a really lightweight device. They're about 3.9 inches tall, about 2 inches wide, and about 1.3 inches thick. So overall, it's a pretty small device. Flipping the devices over to the left, you can see that there is an up and down arrow on both devices. On the opposite side, we've got the same arrangement of buttons, which is the OK and back button here. And then below that, we have the SOS button. This is the danger button. If your life is in jeopardy and you're in a real bad emergency situation, this is the button you're going to want to use. To prevent any accidents, they put a little flap over the top of it that you have to peel back that exposes the button. And if you're in a life and death emergency, you can push this button and eventually a helicopter or a team of people will come to your rescue. Flipping the devices over to the left side again, you can see one of the big changes between these two is that the original Garmin InReach Mini relied on a micro USB port, which I hate, and I'm glad it went away because now on the InReach Mini 2, we have a USB Type-C port, which is the same as all of my other accessories, so I only need one wire when I go into the backcountry to keep on me in case I want to charge this up. In terms of build quality, both of these devices are built really well. They're mainly made out of plastic, but it's a real durable feeling material that they're made out of. And around the exterior of the device in gray is a rubberized grip that helps with grip, but also shock resistance and water resistance. The InReach Mini 2 is IPX7 water resistant, so it can survive in 3 feet of water for up to 30 minutes. That means you're not meant to go like diving with this or swimming with it, but it's mainly just a fail-safe in case your backpack gets really wet or you're in the snow or something like that. So far in this video, you might be wondering, well, what's new in the InReach Mini 2? Because so far, it seems like they're the same device except for those charging ports. Let's talk about the new stuff. One minor update on the InReach Mini 2 compared to the 1 is that the InReach Mini 2 actually has a higher resolution display. It's actually pretty hard to notice unless you get really up close, but text is a little bit easier to read because it's less pixelated. And you'll notice this higher resolution display when you start to cycle through the user interface. As you can see here when I scroll down, the user interface on the InReach Mini 2 has been revamped to mimic what the Garmin watches do. So these are kind of like widget glances, as you'd see kind of like on this Garmin Epix Gen Gen 2 I have here. It's a pretty similar scrolling experience as you scroll down through the menu. Whereas on the original InReach Mini, you had these full page widgets for messaging and things like that. Another tweak on the InReach Mini 2 is that it's much more responsive compared to the InReach Mini 1. As you cycle through widgets, the animations are smoother, the pages load quicker, everything's just a little bit more snappy. Both the InReach Mini and Mini 2 offer the ability to track your location and then send a link to your friends and family so they can follow you in real time while you're out on your adventure. However, the InReach Mini 2 has a new GPS chip that offers increased accuracy and the ability to connect with more satellite systems like GLONASS and Galileo as compared to the original InReach Mini, which only had GPS and it wasn't really very accurate. And in my testing so far, I've noticed that the GPS position lock on the InReach Mini 2 is way faster than on the InReach Mini 1, and that was really an issue I had with the InReach Mini. It took forever to get a GPS lock. That's not an issue on the InReach Mini 2. On top of improved GPS accuracy, we're also getting improved battery life on the InReach Mini 2 with up to 14 days of activity tracking and recording at a 10-minute tracking interval. That means while you're out on your adventure, your location will be updated every 10 minutes and sent up to the cloud so that your friends and family can follow you. Another thing to note is that 14 days of battery life is assuming you've got a clear view of the sky. If you're in the woods or in a heavy cloud cover or something like that, you can expect something more like 4 days in moderate tree cover. And for those of you going out on big adventures that might take a month, you can actually get 30 days of tracking out of the InReach Mini 2 at a 30-minute tracking interval. Another big upgrade to the InReach Mini 2 as compared to the Mini 1 is its standby battery life has been dramatically improved. One major issue I had with the original InReach Mini is that it's not a device I use all the time. I would use it like once a month, maybe twice a month. So it's not something that always got charged. And I noticed that if I left it in my drawer while it's fully charged, the battery would deplete and be completely dead the next time I wanted to use it. Not only that, it seemed like the battery would degrade because of leaving it in the drawer and not charging it up and doing cycles on it. On the InReach Mini 2, they've changed that, so it actually hold a charge for up to 1 year while it's powered off, which is a huge upgrade, and I'm really looking forward to that over time. Walking through the user interface really quick, up top here you can see the first widget is the messages widget, and this is where any incoming messages would appear, and also where you can compose a new message. So if I wanted to write a new message, I can click new message. Now I can click what contact I want to send the message to, or I can type it in. And unfortunately, composing a message on the device is really difficult because all you can do is use this on-screen keyboard. And to do this, you have to actually cycle through the alphabet to find the letter you want to click on and then click OK. And then you keep doing that over and over again until you type in who you want to send the message to. Fortunately, that's not the only way to send a message on this device, but it is good to have in a pinch, and we'll talk about the better way to do this in a little bit. One major difference between the InReach Mini 2 and a lot of the competition in the PLB space out there is that the InReach Mini 2 has two-way communication, which means you can send a message out to somebody, they can respond to that message, and you can respond to them back and forth, just like a cell phone text message communication. With a lot of the competition out there, there's only one-way communication, so you can send messages like I'm okay, I'm late, I'm hurt, etc. But there's no way to have a conversation through the device. And that's what makes the InReach Mini 2 so special. Scrolling down from messages, we have tracking, and diving into this, you can either turn on or off your tracking. Diving into the navigation widget, you can see right up front here, we have a breadcrumb map, and this is very similar to what we find on like a Garmin Forerunner 245 or a Forerunner 745. It's a basic breadcrumb map that will show your location relative to your track that you've been walking or hiking on. The great thing about this breadcrumb map is that it actually has a passive trackback function. So if I click this top right button here, you can see I can click navigate, and then I can go ahead down and click trackback. And when I do that, it'll actually track me back to the start of my activity. So it'll actually generate a course to get you back to your car or the start of your activity without even having a built-in course from your previous activity. This is a great feature to have because even if you're not tracking your location, you can still get back to the beginning of your activity in a pinch if you're lost or something like that. From within the navigation tool, you can also navigate to waypoints that you have saved, or you can do a course which comes over from Garmin Connect or Garmin Explorer app, and I'll show you that in a little bit. Within that navigation widget, you can also just scroll down and get a regular compass, which you can use with a paper map if that's something you're into. Back to the home screen, and the next widget in line is the weather widget, and this is really interesting. So the weather widget is much like what you'd find on a Garmin watch. However, there's one major difference, and it's that it can fetch the weather information through a satellite connection rather than your cell phone. So on a Garmin watch, you always need to be connected to your phone in order to get a weather update on the watch itself, whereas on the InReach Mini 2, you can fetch a weather update manually and have it come down from a satellite connection so you can get this information anywhere on the planet, which is pretty cool. This weather widget is a great tool to have if you're on an extended backpacking trip or something and you want to see the weather forecast for the upcoming days. Another big upgrade to the InReach Mini 2 is that it's now compatible with Garmin's Explore app, and this is an app that's actually been around for a while. However, the InReach Mini 1 was not compatible with this app, and from within this app you can access things like the weather that's fetched from the InReach Mini 2. You can turn on or off your tracking on the InReach Mini 2. You can trigger an SOS without hitting the button on the device itself. You can do that right from the app, which is great. But the best feature about the Garmin Explore app is if you click on messages, you can now write messages right on your phone rather than having to compose the message on the device itself. And as you can see here, when you're composing a message, you can use your phone's keyboard, obviously, and there's a little checkbox on the right here that'll allow you to send your location along with your message, or you can turn it off if you just want to send a message. Within the Garmin Explore app, there's a full-blown topo map, and you can actually download this to your phone so you don't need cell phone coverage to access it. And the nice thing about this is you can actually click on a point and then click navigate, and it'll actually navigate to that point on the InReach Mini 2, and you can hold this in your hand and use this as your point of navigation, but you can set up your course on your phone, which is pretty nice. And of course, within the Garmin Explore app, you can access all of your previous activities. You can also explore any routes that you have in here. So I've got a few preloaded, and if you click on those, it'll actually show a map. And from in here, I can click the three dots in the corner, and I can send this course over to the InReach Mini 2 if I want to follow that in real time. Another really cool feature about the InReach Mini 2 is that if you have a Garmin device like this Garmin Epix Gen 2 I have here, they're actually able to link together. And what I mean by that is you can have your InReach Mini 2 dangling from your backpack and get your messages right to your watch. And let me show you how that works. Once you've paired the InReach Mini 2 with your Garmin compatible watch, you can scroll down through your widgets so you can see here, and you'll notice there's a new widget for InReach. And if I click in on that, you can see some messages that my wife had sent to me a while back, and you can see the battery level of the InReach Mini 2 at the top there. And if I want to, I can dive even further. And at the top here, you can see I have Initiate SOS. This is really important. So if I'm out hiking, trail running, or something like that, and I take a bad fall, and I'm unable to reach my InReach Mini 2 device because it's buried in my backpack or it's behind me or something, I can actually trigger an SOS function right from my watch that will trigger an SOS alert on my InReach Mini 2. On top of that, I can scroll down, I can read my messages that are coming in from the InReach Mini 2, and I can send presets from the watch itself. As you can see here, I have a few presets already set up for I'm checking in and everything's okay, or I'm running late, everything's okay. You can tell I like to make sure my wife knows I'm okay. And this compatibility between the Garmin watches and the InReach Mini 2 is really a benefit to the Garmin ecosystem. They try to tie everything together, and it's pretty awesome to be able to communicate with my phone and my watch and have the InReach Mini 2 on me. There's a lot of options there. Finally, let's talk about pricing on the InReach Mini 2. The device itself retails for $399, which is kind of a lot of money. However, the older InReach Mini is still on sale for $349. So for $50 more, you're getting the latest and greatest tech in the InReach Mini 2. And not only that, it doesn't have a micro USB port like this old one. That $399 price tag doesn't tell you the whole story though, because these devices do require a subscription from InReach. So if you want to be able to communicate with the InReach Mini 2, you do have to sign up with one of their plans. There's two types of plans available from Garmin InReach. You can have the Freedom plan, which is a no commitment plan. It costs a little bit more. So you can buy it for a month and then decide not to use it and turn it back off and suspend your account or turn it back on as you please, which is pretty nice. The Freedom plans start at around $14 and go all the way up to $35. And that really depends on what you want to do with the device. On top of the Freedom plans, there's of course commitment plans. So you can sign up for a full year and get a lower price point starting at about $12 a month. So you do save a little bit of money there. And if you're somebody who will use this thing multiple times a week or a month, that's probably worth doing to save a little bit of money. But for me, like I said, it's not something I use all the time. So I'm going to sign up for the Freedom plan. With all that said, let's talk final thoughts on the InReach Mini 2. Is it worth upgrading to if you have the InReach Mini 1, and is it worth buying if you don't have any of these things? Like I said at the beginning of this video, whether or not you need one of these devices really depends on what you do. If you're somebody who goes into the backcountry, you're somebody with a boat and maybe you spend extended time offshore, you're somebody who goes on trips overseas or, likes to solo backpack or something like that, I feel like these are kind of mandatory options. You should have one of these in your bag, and if it's not a Garmin InReach, it should be a Spot or a PLB. One of these things should be on you because it's a life or death situation. Now, when we're talking about my use case, I'm somebody who ventures to the mountains once or twice a month, and when I'm out there, I generally do have cell phone service, but not all the time, so I do like to have one of these on me, especially if I'm solo. The upgrades that have come to the InReach Mini 2 are welcome, but I do feel like there should have been a little bit more. First of all, it would have been really nice to see a full color display on the InReach Mini 2, something like what we see on the Garmin Fenix 7 or even this Epix Gen 2, something with more colors, more vibrant things, just an easier to use interface. And on top of that, I would have really liked to see full mapping in the InReach Mini 2 because I know they can do it on these watches, which are much smaller. If we look at these side by side, obviously this watch is way smaller than the InReach Mini 2, and this watch has full mapping capabilities while the InReach Mini 2 does not. It only has that breadcrumb map. However, the lack of the map and the color functionality and all that isn't a deal breaker for me because the priority with this device, in my opinion, is safety and to have peace of mind when you're out there in the backcountry, and it achieves that. Now, if you have an InReach Mini 1 and you're considering upgrading to the InReach Mini 2, I really don't know if it's necessary. The InReach Mini 1 is still a great device. I think the one thing that really drove me nuts about the one is that the battery life when you left it in a draw or standby time or whatever just wasn't great, and I feel like the battery could get damaged over time if you don't use it regularly, whereas the InReach Mini 2 seems to have solved that problem. So if that's something that's been affecting you, it might be worth the upgrade. Other than that, I feel like if you have a Garmin watch with navigation features, the InReach Mini 1 is still perfectly acceptable. But if you do want the latest and greatest, you want the navigation features built in, you want that compass built in, and you want to be able to use the new Garmin Explore app instead of the older Earthmate app, the InReach Mini 2 might be the way to go. And with that, we've reached the end of this video. I hope you enjoyed it, and if you did, make sure you hit that thumbs up and subscribe button down below because that really helps me out. And of course, like I said, if you're interested in picking up an InReach Mini 2 or the Mini 1, check out the links in the description down below because those do help support my channel. And that's really it. I hope you found this video helpful, and I will see you next time. Bye.